Priority boarding loophole. One of the simplest but most overlooked secrets for pregnant and older travelers is priority boarding. Most airlines allow early boarding for passengers who need extra time, but surprisingly, many travelers don't claim this right. That's where the trick comes in. It's all about asking politely and knowing exactly what to say at the gate. Imagine arriving at the airport with a heavy carry-on and a backpack. The security line was long, and you finally get to the gate, only to see dozens of passengers already queuing for boarding. If you're pregnant or over 50, standing in that crowd can be exhausting, uncomfortable, or even risky if your pregnancy is advanced. But here's the secret. Airlines legally provide early boarding for passengers with special needs, mobility challenges, or pregnancy-related concerns. You just have to request it. Let's take the story of Sarah, who was 8 months pregnant and flying domestically for the first time. She had a small suitcase and a carry-on with essentials for her unborn child. At the gate, she noticed the line was packed and the agents were busy calling group numbers. Instead of joining the crowd, she politely approached the agent and mentioned her pregnancy, asking if she could board early. The agent smiled, called her name, and let her go first. Not only did this reduce stress, but it gave her extra time to settle in, store her luggage, and find her seat comfortably. Now, consider Mr. Allen, a 65-year-old traveler with mild arthritis. Long waits and standing on crowded jet bridges can be painful, and he almost skipped asking for assistance because he didn't know it was allowed. When he finally inquired, the airline agent immediately offered early boarding and even a small escort to his seat. This small step made his travel experience significantly smoother and less stressful. Here's the insider tip. When asking for priority boarding, be polite, concise, and clear about your needs. You don't need to exaggerate. Just explain that you require extra time to get settled due to pregnancy or mobility considerations. In most cases, the gate agents are happy to accommodate. Airlines often hope travelers don't ask because managing the boarding flow is easier that way, but it's entirely within your rights to request it. Another important point, know your airline's official policy. Many airline websites list assistance for passengers with disabilities or pregnancy under the Special Services section. Familiarizing yourself with this in advance ensures you have the right phrasing at the gate. Some airlines even allow a companion to board early with you, which can make carrying luggage, car seats, or personal items much easier. Extra tip. If you're flying internationally, some airports have dedicated priority lanes for families, seniors, or passengers with medical needs. These lanes can allow you to board faster and sometimes even receive extra assistance with luggage or seating. Checking this ahead of time saves you from stress at the gate. And don't forget, boarding early isn't just about comfort. It's also about safety. Pregnant passengers and older travelers often need easier access to overhead bins, restrooms, and extra space. By boarding early, you can avoid being rushed or forced to lift heavy luggage into tight compartments, which reduces the risk of strain or injury. Finally, remember that every airline has slightly different policies, but nearly all carriers provide some form of priority boarding for special needs. The key is to ask confidently and politely, so you're not overlooked. This simple step can transform a stressful airport experience into a smooth, stress-free start to your journey. 2. Medical certificates not always required. One of the biggest surprises for pregnant travelers is that airlines often ask for a doctor's note or medical certificate when you're in the later stages of pregnancy. This can feel intimidating, and many passengers worry they might be denied boarding if they don't have the right paperwork. But here's the insider secret. For many domestic flights, medical certificates are not actually required, even in the third trimester. Knowing this ahead of time can save you from unnecessary stress and last-minute panic. Let's talk about a real-life example. Jessica, who was 37 weeks pregnant, booked a flight to visit family. She assumed she would need a doctor's note because that's what her friend had mentioned. On the day of travel, she arrived at the airport prepared with a note from her OB/GYN. But when she approached the gate, the agent looked at her boarding pass and simply asked if she was medically fit to fly. No certificate was needed at all. Jessica realized that most passengers overcomplicate this, and she could have avoided the extra paperwork entirely. Older travelers should also pay attention to this. Some airlines treat passengers with certain medical conditions similarly to pregnant travelers. If you're over 65 and have a medical condition, airlines sometimes ask for proof of fitness to travel. However, if your condition is stable and you're capable of moving independently, a doctor's certificate may not be necessary. The key is knowing the airline's official policy in advance. Here's another tip. Always check the airline's website under the Special Assistance or Traveling with a Medical Condition section. Many carriers clearly outline when a certificate is required and when it's optional. This prevents last-minute confusion at check-in and helps you avoid delays. For international flights, policies can vary slightly. Some airlines may require a doctor's note for travel past 36 weeks or for passengers with certain health conditions. The trick here is planning ahead. Contact customer service a few days before your flight to clarify if you truly need documentation. This ensures a smooth boarding process and gives you peace of mind. Let's dive deeper with another example. Maria, a 39-week pregnant traveler, was flying internationally. She assumed she needed a doctor's note, so she requested one and brought it to the airport. At check-in, the agent barely looked at the note and only asked if she felt fit to travel. While Maria had done everything right, she realized that airlines often overemphasize the requirement for documentation because most passengers don't ask or research. Knowing the exact rules can save time and stress. Extra tip: even when a certificate isn't required, bringing any supporting medical info can be helpful in case of questions. For example, a printed summary from your doctor or a prescription for prenatal vitamins can reassure staff without being officially mandatory. This is especially useful for older travelers who may have medications or mobility needs. They can present documentation if requested, but in most cases, boarding won't be denied without it. Finally, a little insider knowledge. Airlines prefer travelers to ask politely and clarify their situation rather than simply arriving and hoping for the best. By proactively communicating your pregnancy or health needs, you demonstrate responsibility and awareness. Gate agents are usually happy to assist, and this approach can prevent delays, confusion, or unnecessary stress. Knowing whether a medical certificate is required is a simple but powerful tool. It ensures you aren't surprised at check-in, keeps your travel experience smooth, and allows you to focus on enjoying your trip rather than worrying about rules that might not even apply to you. 3. Seat selection secrets. Choosing the right seat can completely change your flight experience, especially if you're pregnant or over 50. Many travelers simply pick whatever seat is available, without realizing that strategic seat selection can save them discomfort, fatigue, and even unexpected stress during the flight. Today, we're going to show you how to choose seats like a travel insider. Let's start with bulkhead seats. These are the first row seats in each section of the plane, usually offering extra legroom and no seat in front to block your space. For pregnant passengers, bulkhead seats make it easier to get up and move around, especially during long flights. For older travelers, the extra space reduces cramping and allows easier access to the aisle. However, airlines often reserve these seats for families with small children or passengers who pay extra for premium seating. This is where the insider trick comes in. Politely ask the gate agent or during check-in if a bulkhead seat is available due to medical or comfort needs. If you explain that you're pregnant or require extra space due to age or mobility, many airlines will accommodate your request. It doesn't hurt to ask, and the result can make a huge difference in your comfort. Here's an example. Laura, who was 6 months pregnant, booked an economy ticket on a domestic flight. She wanted extra space for comfort, but didn't see any seats labeled as bulkhead online. At check-in, she politely mentioned her pregnancy to the agent. The agent smiled and offered her a bulkhead seat that had just opened up due to a last-minute cancellation. Laura was able to stretch her legs, store her carry-on easily, and board the plane stress-free. This simple step completely changed her flight experience. Older travelers can use similar strategies. Mr. Reynolds, a 68-year-old traveler, often experiences knee pain on long flights. He usually sits in the middle of the plane without much space, but on his last flight, he requested a seat closer to the aisle with extra legroom. The airline accommodated him because he politely explained his condition. Not only was he more comfortable, but he also avoided the struggle of getting in and out multiple times during the flight. Another tip: aisle seats are usually the best choice for both pregnant and older passengers. They make it easier to stand up, walk, and use the restroom without disturbing other passengers. Even if the airline shows these seats as already booked, check in early and ask again at the gate. Last-minute cancellations or seat changes can create opportunities you wouldn't see online. For longer flights, consider paying a small fee for premium economy or extra legroom seating if possible. Many airlines quietly reserve these seats for high-paying customers, but some carriers will accommodate passengers with medical or comfort needs if you ask politely. Remember, airlines prefer proactive communication, and a respectful request often goes a long way. Pregnant travelers should also consider proximity to restrooms. Mid-cabin seats near lavatories can save frequent trips across the aisle, reducing fatigue and minimizing stress. Older passengers may benefit from the same strategy, especially if mobility is limited. Use the airline's seating map to identify these options in advance. Here's an insider trick. If you're traveling with a companion, sit strategically. For example, one person can request aisle access while the other chooses a middle or window seat. This way, you can help each other with luggage or comfort during the flight. Airlines rarely mention these small strategies, but they can improve your travel experience significantly. Finally, don't forget to check in online as early as possible. Many airlines release their seating map 24 hours before departure. Early check-in combined with polite gate requests dramatically increases your chances of getting the ideal seat. Seat selection is not just about comfort. It's about controlling your flight environment and reducing stress from start to finish. 4. Avoiding TSA lines. One of the biggest stress points for pregnant and older travelers is waiting in long TSA security lines. Standing for 20, 30, or even 60 minutes can be exhausting, uncomfortable, and in some cases, unsafe. But there are insider strategies that can dramatically reduce your wait time and make the security process much easier. Let's start with TSA PreCheck. This program is a lifesaver for frequent travelers, providing a separate lane with shorter lines and less invasive screening. Pregnant travelers and older passengers who enroll can skip the long lines, keep shoes and jackets on, and go through a smoother security process. If you haven't signed up yet, it's worth considering. Sometimes a small annual fee saves hours of stress. But what if you're not enrolled in PreCheck? Here's a lesser-known trick. Many airports offer priority lanes for travelers with medical conditions, mobility issues, or pregnancy-related needs. These lanes are often quiet and faster than the main line. The secret is that airlines rarely advertise this, and the staff assumes most passengers won't ask. Simply approach the TSA officer at the entrance, explain your situation, and request access. Most officers are trained to accommodate these requests. Let's consider an example. Maria, a pregnant traveler in her third trimester, arrived at a major airport during peak travel hours. She saw a line that wrapped around the terminal. Instead of joining the crowd, she politely approached a TSA officer and mentioned her pregnancy. The officer directed her to a shorter, less crowded lane. Not only did she save 25 minutes, but she also avoided the stress of standing in a long line with other passengers rushing around. Older travelers can use the same strategy. Mr. Daniels, 70 years old with mild arthritis, often struggles standing in long lines. On his last flight, he asked the TSA officer at the front about accommodations. He was guided to a priority lane, which allowed him to maintain his energy and avoid unnecessary discomfort. This small action made his travel experience much smoother. Another tip, arrive early. This may seem obvious, but early arrival gives you more options. Peak times, like early morning or late afternoon, usually have the longest lines. If you arrive ahead of the crowd, you can take advantage of shorter lines and even spot agents offering priority lanes. Combining early arrival with a polite request for assistance often works better than waiting until the line is overwhelming. For those flying internationally, some airports offer special assistance lanes for seniors, pregnant passengers, or travelers with medical conditions. These lanes may not always be marked clearly, but asking at the entrance or checking online in advance can save a huge amount of time. Many travelers overlook these hidden opportunities, and airlines hope they will. Extra insider tip: keep your documents and boarding pass easily accessible. TSA officers appreciate organized passengers, and it speeds up the process for everyone. Pregnant travelers should also consider wearing slip-on shoes and avoiding heavy jewelry to minimize delays, even in priority lanes. Older passengers with mobility concerns can use assistive devices if needed, and TSA will usually accommodate them without hassle. Finally, remember that patience and politeness go a long way. TSA officers are trained to assist passengers with special needs, but they often encounter travelers who are rushed or unaware of options. By calmly requesting assistance and explaining your situation, you're much more likely to be guided to the quickest, safest, and most comfortable line. Avoiding TSA stress isn't just about saving time. It's about reducing fatigue, staying safe, and arriving at your gate ready to enjoy your flight.